Yeah.
We are fashionably late. 27
Yeah.
minutes. Hang
It's a
on.
lot.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Sorry.
No, not in this environment. All these energies that we're going through, I think we have to
Yeah,
give
I know.
respect to them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let me see if it's working. Here we go. All right. I don't know why it's doing that, but let's see. Let me see if I can fix it real quick. Mm. No, for some reason I can't fix it. We're going to be like this, I guess. Hang on. All right.
What are you trying to fit?
I'm trying to fix our. We're so small, right? I mean, like make it bigger. Okay. All right.
Okay, don't.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
We're
don't
good.
matter.
All right. So let's turn the music off. All right. Here we go. Okay. So we are on Facebook. If you look on your right hand side of your, oh, somewhere on your phone, you'll be able to see the comments that come in from YouTube, Facebook, and X. All
I
right.
can just see. Yeah, I can just see us two at the top,
Mm,
and then just me at the bottom on my own.
okay. All right.
I can't see the comments. It's okay.
All right. All right. Okay. So we had some problems. 29 minutes late. Um, all right. So, first of all, let me just say thank you for coming in. Thank you.
Thank you for having
And
me.
I have no idea what's going on, none. But what I feel is that as we step into this space where we are transparent
Mhm.
and fully open without agenda, without any kind of premeditated, I got to say this or I got to say that. Um, it's a space where we can all learn from. And thank you for coming in. I've never met you before. This is the longest conversation we ever had. uh, but yeah, you're in Great Britain. In
Yeah.
the message that you gave me, you had the cultural influence of being Indian, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I put out that post or those posts 3 or 4 days ago, and you
Yeah.
answered in
Yeah.
the flow. And I
Yeah.
picked up on it and said, okay. So I don't mean to put you on the spot, but
Right.
um, who are you? How'd you get here? What's going on? And is there anything you can relate to us from a individual level with all your emotions and all your personality and all the personal part of it that we might be able to benefit from?
Okay. So basically, I'm in Northwest London, and born here, brought up here. My parents are both Indian, and so I had, as you said, the cultural of a lot of cultural things to take into account. The programming as a child, um, it was all about basically we have this society influences. What is everyone else gonna say? It's always about what everyone else outside of you or your family is gonna think. And so my father had a traumatic childhood. Um, he basically was abused as a child, and those days he was born in Kenya. My both of my parents are actually from Kenya, and they were
So your
raised with.
father, your father was abused in his childhood.
He was abused in his childhood, yes.
Okay. And I
And
totally,
in those days, sorry.
no, I was just going to say, I think it's important, at least for me, to try to understand
Yes, yes,
your lineage is half through your father, half through your mother. And so it is important what he experienced in the human incarnation as the father and the person that you know him to be. So, and you don't have to answer anything that's uncomfortable. But I'm
I
just
don't think
curious.
anything's uncomfortable for me. I've been through all of that.
Good.
So,
Well,
because
I
this is
mean,
about being
like,
honest and transparent. Everything I've been through is actually a blessing because it's led me to the light. And that's why I think it's important to say, you know, all of it.
yeah, yeah, yes, I agree, and that's the space that we find ourselves in, and I think it's the purest space with the highest potential of the code that we have to offer, not so much what we download, but what we can upload. Your father's childhood, adolescence, etc. The impact it had on your DNA, your genetics. Was he sexually abused? Was he physically
I think
abused? Was he
I
emotionally abused?
physically and emotionally.
Hmm.
We don't know the exact. He would get very upset when I'm saying he because he passed away 5 weeks ago. So
My
yeah,
condolences. And to have that type of occurrence in this time with what's been happening, uh, December and January, now we're in February, because we know it's coming so fast.
yes,
But
and I've been listening to some of the interviews you've been doing, and everyone's talking about the year 2024, and near the end is when he transitioned out. So it all ties in with all the energies and all of that. Anyway, I'm gonna go back to where I started, where I was going. So basically, that's what he had, and he was also beaten quite badly all the time. But in those days, it was a thing. It was very normal. In their world, it was very normal to beat the child because of discipline, is what they would say. I know that it's not, and the new generation wouldn't agree with it the way we are now. It would be, but in those days, it was okay to do that. So I remember that whenever I'd have a conversation with him, it would always be about how he was beaten. He would always say to me, my brother and sister, that you guys are so lucky, you have it so easy because this is what would happen to me. I was beaten. And so in his mindset, it was we were having a luxurious life because this was his upbringing. Anyway, so all that carried on, and he was quite strict as a father. It was always because being a woman, a daughter, it was always different, as in like you always had this different rules for the boys and the different rules for the girls. And so I had a very strict upbringing. And he was quite controlling and all of that, but that was all down to what he had brought along from his childhood and all of the cultural influences and all of that. Anyway, so that continued. It was quite a tough childhood. Um, in the culture, there's a lot of arranged marriages as well,
mm,
and that's a very common thing. And so when he did want to marry somebody else, it wasn't allowed. His sister committed suicide because she wanted to get married to someone, and she wasn't able to do that. And because of that, again, he lost a sister, and so he basically cut it short. He had a very traumatic childhood. So as I was growing up, I had it very tough. I finished my studies, um, graduated in marketing and advertising, only because I did wanted to be a fashion designer, and all the dreams that I had. I couldn't do that because it wasn't a career that was kind of. He wasn't happy with the career I was going to take because um, it was all about, you know, he was trying to look out for me, put it in the, he was trying to look out for me, but at the same time, it wasn't something that I wanted to do. Once I graduated, I started working in a bank. Um, Working in a bank, haven't passed my maths. It's just not me. Ended up there only because I couldn't find a job after graduation. So I ended up staying there 21 years of my life.
Mm.
Um, Not very happy, but then dad's whole journey just continued where he lost all his life savings, and it was all energy. He lost all his life savings. um, there was a lot of there was always something going on, so I always felt like I was responsible for my father. And it was all about me being responsible for him. And so my life just continued like that, working in a job. Then I started having back issues where I started having back pains and stuff. And I think that was all coming from not feeling supported as a child. That's what I found out now. At the time, I had no idea. So it was all about health, him, and working in that job, which was banking and quite stressful environment. You're dealing with people's money and all of that, so it was all quite traumatic. What then happened, how my journey started, was um
Wait,
one thing.
let's stop just for 1 second and continue, please. So you've gone from your childhood, this 21-year period, right, to and what's in between. So at that point, you are what age? And if you don't mind me asking, what age? Linear.
I
We know
lost
it's
my
not
job
real.
last
What
year.
age you are now? Oh,
I'm
last year.
47.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I'm 47.
basically, yeah. So you've taken us through the entire thing, and I appreciate it. And thank you so much for bringing your human today. In addition to your multi dimensionality. So as you continue to tell us what happened, and maybe you're getting there right now, was there a moment when you, a lot of people talk about a moment when there's a line in the sand, they say, you know what, no more. I'm going to do
Yeah.
me.
So no, it was like, I don't know why. I think I had a very strong karmic contract or what it was with him. From my brother, sister, and me, I was the one that stayed with them.
Mm,
I just couldn't walk out and just leave them to it, not thinking about my mom and all of that. There's a lot more to it. And I remember I'm programmed to feel like that because that's just how it is. That's the culture. We don't just walk out at 18 and say, right, it's very different. There's a lot of all this programming there. I'm not awake at this time, so I'm
mm,
continuing on. What then happened was he got locked up for drinking and driving one day. He became an alcoholic because all this stress and trauma he had, he turned into an alcoholic because I think he
mm,
couldn't handle it anymore. And he was
mm.
very suicidal, all of that. So what then happened was I started dating somebody and lasted about 4 years. And it was after that breakup, which was in 2020, is
Mm.
when my awakening started. As in, like,
Okay.
I started. That was the point where it was like, right, no more. I need to do something.
How would you um, describe your personal point that you're talking about now, 2020, with what was happening collectively with COVID and the
So
mandates and
you
all the.
see, yeah. So okay, so
Do you think there
I
was like a correlation where you were going through something and the collective was at the same time?
see at that time I was still not completely awake.
Okay.
No, I wasn't completely awake.
Okay.
It was after that breakup where I said, right, I went on holiday on my own. That was my first solo trip. I went to Turkey, and that breakup was where I just went. And I said, right, I need to change something, and I don't know how and how it's gonna happen. But I was always connected to source.
Right.
My strongest support was that I was very connected to source, and I knew that and I'm quite strong headed. Like, for me, all of the circumstances made me very strong, and I knew I had to make a change. So
Mm.
in 2020, I went on my holiday. I came back. I started doing little meditations where I was just connecting my pillar of light. And as I would connect to Gaia and connect to Source, I felt this energy that I've never experienced before. It was like, what is this? Like, it just made me really peaceful. And it was just, the first time you've experienced a meditation, you're feeling like it's new to you. And it just felt amazing. So then there was hunger to go further and go further. And then that's when I started all of my ancestral healing and soul contracts and all of it. It all started from there. And all I did was just clearing, 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 clearing. I even put my gifts to one side where I felt my intuition started changing. I started feeling things. But for me, I just wanted to get the clearing done out of the way before I started going in too deep into my gifts.
Mm. Mm.
So then did all of the clearings and um, merging your masculine, feminine, all of this, and it was all about doing the clearing. And then what happened was as I was new, all of my meditations and everything, all my teachers were all on Facebook. So Facebook was great. It served me well. Met a few, and when I was new, I met this wrong teacher, false teacher, which was a blessing now. Um,
Okay. Okay. Hang on one second, sister. Slow down just a little bit. The
mhm,
codes and the information and the honesty and the openness that you're sharing is carrying something far beyond your words.
mhm,
And even though that happened to you then and we're here now, I feel that there's a lot of people that can relate to it if we take out the linear timeline.
mhm.
Because, what happened to me 10 years ago happened to you a year ago. It's all the same thing, right? So we can
Yeah,
learn something from it. But so
yeah,
to go back to what you were saying through this
mhm,
transformation, okay, so it's almost like at, there was a point which you described that you said no more. I'm
yeah,
not doing this anymore.
yes,
Okay. And
yeah,
doesn't matter. And I don't mean to be throwing light on anyone because I have a mother and a father and siblings and exes and partners and children, etc. Um, I've got to do this for myself.
yeah,
But at the same time, the other part's playing out the father, the connections, the relationships, etc., like you've talked about. Can you kind of tell us from this point now, looking back, obviously you're walking and we've been walking in two worlds,
yeah,
and we love those in that, I hate to use this term, but like 3D or where we came from, we love them, but there's a lot of letting go, and it's all predicated on us choosing ourself, which is what you're talking about. So from the point of choosing yourself as you described, did it get easier? Or did it, what kind of
it did. I
things
mean,
what kind of things what kind of things were you confronted with from the old part of it or the old perception of the old part of it?
so basically it helped me to deal with things in a better way. So basically, so I would be going to work. Oh yeah, and I had a narcissistic boss at work as
Mm,
well.
mm.
So, but it's all part of the energy that I was carrying. So I was clearly wounded from my childhood. And
So in other words, what you're saying is everything you were experiencing was exactly what you needed to see until you didn't need to see
100%,
it
no,
anymore.
no
Okay,
regret.
yeah, I
Yeah,
got you.
because it's made
Thank
me
you.
who I am today. So
Yes, thank you.
there was, yeah. So I had that, and so dad continued, but he then had a fall turned into a brain injury, stroke, Parkinson's, dementia, and an arm amputation. So that all started off because once you have a fall, and it was after COVID actually, it was basically had the vaccine, going to be open and honest, within a few weeks he had a fall, and it all led to that him deteriorating slowly.
Right.
But when he fell, he changed obviously because he couldn't have the alcohol anymore. And I kind of had a dad back. You know, that child that wanted to always, I would always see my other family and friends having a father that was just always there. And that is something that I missed out on. So it was my inner child that was wounded, right? And so, but when he had the fall, obviously he could not drink anymore. And so in some ways, it felt like I had him back. Not
Mm.
back, but it felt like I had a father for a
It's,
little while. Yeah.
it sounds like a multidimensional embodiment experience. And what I mean by that is, even given the circumstances at the human level, with the condition that he um, came to,
Hmm.
which therefore you had to receive that energy. Um, I don't know. I guess another way to put it or delve into it would be, how different was your unconditional love before it happened, and then as you were presented with the circumstances at a human level, and how you responded? Can you talk a little bit about that?
See, the thing with me is that I always felt like I needed to help him. And that's
Mm,
just me. I'm an empath and I just wanted to, and it's my father. So for me, it was like, I'm going to make sure he doesn't drink. Through my
mm,
whole journey, it was always
mm,
about him. It was always like, I've got to save him. And no matter what he did, he was still my father and I loved him
mm,
totally, right? But at the same time, because I got on my spiritual path, it helped me to deal with things in a very different way. Like I had this inner strength to be able to do things and handle things in a very different way. It's that inner strength, connecting to source and connecting to your I am. It just gave me this strength, which helped, just kept me going. And
How, how much, this is solid. Thank you. How much did control and judgment um, play into it? Like, we all have a mother and a father. We all have dynamics of that. If you talk to any light worker or starseed,
mhm,
and I'm guilty too over the years,
mhm,
we know we have to be one with our mother and our father, but oh my God, mine's an exception. You don't know my mother. You don't know my father, you know? But how much evolution or transformation occurred at the human level in regard to judgment and trying to control things? Because what you're talking about is so paradoxical, but it was so true, that you always wanted this part of your father, yet it had to take him down to this point for you to actually receive it.
even then, if you think about it, he had a brain injury, so he
Yeah,
wasn't quite present,
yeah.
right? And then near the end, his talking went as well. Like the speech had kind of gone, and it was tough. But then you see, I started understanding, and near the end, I say 2 years, I started understanding that it all changes because I know that I chose my parents. I chose we made soul contracts, and
Yes.
they came in to be exactly how they were, which is exactly, it's just we get down on earth and then we say, oh my God, I can't handle this or that. But I've chosen all of it. And so I've chosen it because it's made me who I am today.
Yeah.
I'm having a conversation with you after 5 or 6 weeks of him passing. I couldn't have done that without this journey because I would probably be having panic attacks and I'd be broken. So I'm grateful for every single lesson, and it would not have made me who I am today. And I think I'm here on a soul mission to help others. And I feel like after him passing, I knew this for a while, but it's very obvious. that it all happened. Like, I'm grateful for all of it.
Yeah.
No victim mentality anymore. It was there before I'd healed, but it's all happened because
Yeah.
I chose all of it.
See, I feel like, over the last couple of days, I tried to, we had a cancellation. So I had a friend of mine interview me to talk
Yeah, I
about,
remember. I
okay,
couldn't
okay.
sleep.
So,
Yeah,
but if I think about and I feel into what's here, which is being initiated by your transparency, and I think about the show I did uh, yesterday. At the very end of the show, she divulged to us that she had a lump present in December.
I saw that.
And at the
Yeah.
beginning, right at the beginning of the show, she talked about how the last 60 days have been the toughest. And I'm like, oh my God, yeah, everybody's feeling it, blah, blah, blah. But at the end, she comes in with that. And it feels like the same energy. Your father just transitioned a few weeks ago. She had this occur just a few weeks ago. There's something about this space that you're sharing with us today that isn't about I told you so. It isn't about I know something, let me tell you what it is, or do this modality, or whatever the case is. There's something about sharing from the grace and not the pain anymore, but the
No.
grace of the human soul and the soul that's human. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I don't know what it is. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know any books on it. You know what I
Wow.
mean?
Maybe
So
we can write one.
So let me ask you, not to get into the psychic phenomena that we talked about all these years, which we know now is our natural state, but ha, what has your um, connection been with the energy that you knew as your father since he transitioned?
Do you mean what do I feel, or do you
Yeah.
mean?
Yes, yes, absolutely. How do you feel? How has it felt? If you don't mind, if you don't want to talk
No,
about it,
it's
that's
fine.
fine. But I really feel like that's it. How does it feel?
It's all making 100% sense after he's transitioned.
Mm.
And I had a psychic reading done. But I used my pendulum to make sure that that my friend, everything she was saying, whether it was making sense, but at the same time I wanted confirmation. I've become very careful with my energy. I've come very far, and I'm skeptical now. If it doesn't come from me and my higher self, I'm a little bit.
That's what I
I
wanted
wasn't.
to. I wanted to interject when you said that about your friend because I could feel in your expression, she's a friend or he's a friend. I mean, that's a friend. You could feel it in the heart. Um, Verbalization that you gave energetically. What I wanted to say or ask you at that time was, even though that is your friend, a beloved to a degree, right? To a great degree, you kind of were letting us know that you were still relying at the end of the day on yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
So basically, put it this way: I can't channel at the moment.
Right.
I can't talk to the spirit who's passed away. I can't do that. So I'm now, and it's information that's coming through, and I want to be sure. And for me, it's like when I say friend, she's a friend on Facebook, but at the same time, with the channeling, we need to make sure that the spiritual hygiene is there before we're connecting. And also, sometimes we think we're connecting to our uncles and aunts and dads and whatever we're connecting to. We've got to be sure that that person, whoever is connecting, is done the spiritual hygiene and is coming from a place where it's 100% accurate. They know discernment, all of that. And so I wanted to be sure that the messages that were coming through because at that time my mental state wasn't right. I couldn't even connect. I couldn't even
Mm,
do my pillar of light properly because I'm
mm,
obviously still, the human side is still grieving, no matter how much we know that this, nobody ever dies, and we're still, as much as we know it all, when it happens, you still have that. And
yeah,
so
yeah.
I wanted to make sure, but the messages that I had got was obviously he could see everything from that point of view where, he's no more in the human form. And all he said to me was that he had learned so much from me. And what he had learned was no matter what happened to me, I still had unconditional love for him, no matter what.
Mm.
And that is something that's a learning, because you turn into hate, or you turn into holding grudges and all of that, but I never had that.
Well, I think what's powerful about your real time human soul uh, conveyance to us is regardless of whether it's a person or a aspect of us or the Pleiadians or whoever, with all due respect, it's how it feels. And that's what I heard from you. It's like I, and I would say this myself, I took my friend's intel on, I took a mirror of me on, and the information they gave me. It doesn't mean it was 100%, and that's not good or bad, but it got me, it put me in the direction that I knew, or that maybe I needed some validation to know that I was in, or more confidence, or whatever, to get to the point where ultimately it's the same thing over and over, which no, everything that we take in, it's still on us. We can I think we can say now that yeah, we're driving the ship, and it's not about how you do it or blah blah blah, or oh, I'm doing it. It's about doing it, being it. It's vulnerable, it's transparent, it's scary, it has the human emotions, but it also has this incredible power
Mhm.
of combining those emotions into an act, which could be as simple as Todd starting a new podcast, or you deciding to come on a podcast for the first time. And I think I remember your message, which was, I don't know what I'm going to say. But you know what I mean? Metaphorically speaking, from an energetic basis, we're, this is the space I want to explore. Does it pay me a lot of money? Does it give me a big house? Does it this or that? I don't know. But this is a space that my soul, our souls, what got us all here after all these years when we were crazy and our family said we were crazy and society said we were
Yeah,
crazy,
yeah.
where we can actually come with humility and meet and still say, you know what? Yeah, this with the vaccines, and this with the COVID, and this with the wars, and this with the politics. But aside from all that, I'm here with my brothers and sisters, and I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm happy to share my experience, because that's something that really we haven't done.
And
Not to
that's
this,
that's the
not to
whole
this
point.
degree.
Yeah, but that's what I mean, that's what we're here to do, is to wake up everybody else. And if I had heard stories like this, maybe I wouldn't have felt at that time that I was on my own, because it felt very lonely.
Yeah.
And listening to someone who came up from the dead and come up, I'm manifesting things now. I can manifest things a lot quicker. Things are turning up. It's like you and me. When I saw your post, I knew I was going to do this
Right.
before you'd even replied. And within 7 minutes, you messaged and said, let's do
Right.
it.
Right.
That's not one thing. Even dad, like when dad passed a week ago, I saw the funeral cars going past my house.
Yeah.
So I'm waking up to these new gifts, which
Yeah.
I don't know where. I think it's time now. I feel it's coming now all together.
Yeah.
And
I think, for me, and again, my information is coming out in these conversations with my beloved,
Yeah.
and with what's happening now with this new initiative, with this whatever this is. Um, but it's as if this space is creating a void.
Mm.
You're not Toral. I'm not Todd.
Yeah.
We're not the things that woke us up. The channels and the light language and everything that we've all gotten in our own way. We're in this space where everything that has happened, traumas and blessings and activations and triggers, is information that's uh, offered the opportunity for us to potentialize. And for some reason, I feel that um, it it's meant to happen between us, another person, two other people, five people, your partner, your mother, your father, your brother, your sister, uh, and it's real, and it's weird, and it's powerful, and it's magical, and um, it's humbling to hear people. The show yesterday about her condition, you talking about your father, but in the spirit of it, metaphorically, to hear people talking about these things and not being in victim consciousness, not blaming the matrix, um, but just saying, you know what, I am soul, I am sacred union, I am Trinity. I don't know what the hell's going on. I just know that these synchronicities are occurring, and the more that we tap into them together, uh, well, I haven't seen anything that says it's a bad idea.
No, but even though we don't know what's going on, I feel that there's a sense and there's a feeling
Mm,
there that
mm.
it's going in the right direction.
True, true, yeah,
What it feels
very
like.
true.
And I when I worked in the bank, I worked there for 21 years, so I would
Mm,
see customers coming in and I could see the change in the level of consciousness.
mm.
I would always attract customers that were somehow connected to spirituality.
Really?
And yeah, it would be
So,
like
so okay, so 21 years. You're talking about from the early 2000s, right?
Mhm,
Is that right?
mhm.
Okay. So, are you saying? I see what you're saying about the on like the personal interaction, but did you see a change in the customers as a whole
Yes,
as over those 20? Really? Yeah.
yeah, I did, especially after COVID. So I feel
Mm,
COVID was there
mm,
for this reason to wake people up.
mm.
But I think it didn't happen quite as much as it should have. But it was
I
there.
don't
I
know.
mean,
I
yeah,
don't know.
there was more time when people were working from home. That's where there was time to spend with the family, value your family life. Think about the jobs that we're doing. Are we trapped into the system doing a 9 to 5 job? I know I was very unhappy there. And the more I grew, every morning I would wake up in the morning and say, this is not in alignment with my soul. It's just not in alignment. I just don't want to do this.
Right.
But I wasn't willing to walk out without getting paid. And I did. I manifested it. I got redundant. I got paid out and I left.
Mm. Yeah, I
It
think
was,
it's it, and we've talked about it on these few shows a little bit. How do you describe what's happening?
in
You
this
know what I
current
mean?
moment.
It's like, how do you, like, no, really, any of us, for years,
Yes.
for 2012 to 2024, there was a lot of modalities, there was a lot of narratives, there was a lot of past memories. They were all relevant, they all helped us. But it's like we're on the other side now. There's this place here. And it's like, how do you even talk about this? You can try
I
to,
think
and it's not.
all of that was important. I think all of
Oh,
that
yeah.
was important to make us who we are now, so that
Yeah.
we can now be there and hold
Yeah.
the light for the people who are not awake.
Yes. But at the
Right?
same time, you, me, those like us still have to function. We still
Of
have
course.
to operate as a human. And that's
Yes.
what I'm saying is
Yes.
it's like there's something about that, like that. In other words, that part of our multi-dimensionality, the fact that the human is the primary consciousness, and even though that consciousness or that active consciousness has changed and is changing very rapidly, where in intuition, telepathy, group mind is coming in, we're still trying to figure out from our human aspect, how the hell do we do this?
Yes.
And for me, it's like, oh my God, do you mean to tell me that every thought I have at the basis, words I speak, and actions I take are really the most powerful thing I can do? And that is to apply the code that we've all received and to create code based on our faith and our trust in ourselves, our playmates, and the collective.
I think it's about what this is teaching me is it's just to be who you are
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just shine your light and surrender to
Mm,
the flow and
mm,
let in whatever. I think before it was I was a very control person. I wanted to control my outcomes and very
right.
organized in certain way. Even when you and me couldn't connect today, it was like, oh, I need to connect. And so some parts of that is fading away. Just let it
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
and just let
I love what you said, because it is something that I think every human can relate to. You know, you said surrender, but I mean it's beyond surrender, isn't it? Like it's almost like you take the word faith and
So
surrender and
if you
you
have
put them
trust,
together.
yeah. So if
Well,
you
yeah,
have trust,
trust,
then
faith, surrender. It's like you just say yes. So if I can trust myself
yeah,
fully as a divine soul that I am, no bullshit, no pretty words. It's just what I feel inside of me, which we all know takes work. And I can
yeah,
see my reflection in the other, my partner, uh, collaborators, whoever. Then it only makes sense that the collective will reflect that. And it sounds weird. It sounds like, oh my God, you don't care about the kids in Gaza and this and that, and I do. I do. We've
yeah.
all been through the empathic journey of pain and suffering, but at the
Hmm.
same time, this is our superpower. We can actually, instead of feeling it all, put it into the field as what you said, which is be yourself, and
There is
whatever that word is beyond surrender.
there is a divine brother, and I think you know him, Rick Jones. And
Yeah.
I know not long ago I saw one of his posts, and I had a conversation with him.
Mm,
And I was doing it too. I am guilty of it as well. And when all this truth is being exposed of what's happening with the tunnels and all of that,
yeah.
it's very easy to say that they'll be punished for whatever they done. We know the law of the universe. What happens comes back to you. But you've got to be neutral because the more that we start making judgments, we're feeding into that energy now. And so it's something that he posted where it was
That's a good
like,
point. That's a good
don't
point.
have judgment because then we're then going into the negative. So as a collective, what are we doing?
So
And
then,
that's what we want.
so I guess the question is, and Rick's a friend of mine. We've done many,
Yeah,
many shows together, and
yeah.
so it's not about him. It's just the whole idea of openness and expansion is based on, from the human perspective, to ask questions to make us think. Are we that open? Are we as open as we thought we were? But to me, the question is, if that's the case, and we are putting on the lenses of the soul, we are embodying. And part of that is to allow every soul, uninhibited, okay, without interference, to fulfill that path that you talked about at the very beginning of the show in regard to what we plan and so on. That in doing that, from the human perspective, we're not really giving any energy or time and consideration to that stuff. So, in other words, why are we talking about it? Maybe we should talk about what happened with you and your father. Maybe we should talk about
That's true.
the sister that was on yesterday and what happened with her 2 months ago with the lump in her breast, and these types of things that may seem like nothing, but maybe in this world where we've been, where everything's upside down, there's something there that we haven't seen,
Yeah.
even if we can't explain it how it works, but by saying it and allowing ourselves, like you said, to be ourselves and to share that energy, uh, for it to be seen as well. I believe there's a contagious aspect to that that is beyond my explanation.
I think it takes work to be able to be so open and to not feel embarrassed to say
Mm,
your truth, you know? But then for me, some of it is to do, my father was like that. He was very outspoken,
mm.
where he'd say things how they were. So I have that from him. And being a Sagittarian, that's my energy. I just have to say things how they are. I find it very difficult.
When's your birthday? I'm Sagittarius. When's your birthday?
The 25th of November.
Oh, of November. Okay, cool. Um, yeah, yeah. I'm glad you said that. It gives me a little bit of validation. You have the tendency as a Sagittarian. I don't mean to get off subject, but to say things that are, it's not like blunt. It's just like almost like it's not stupid. It's not naive. It's just like you don't know any better.
No,
I have struggled with that for my whole life. But no, go ahead. Keep
me
going.
too.
Keep going. Keep
No,
going.
it's been hard because I just have to speak my truth. And
Yeah.
sometimes I was taught you need to be a bit more diplomatic, but now I'm on my path. I don't
Hmm.
think so. I just need to be me. And what will resonate will stay. What doesn't resonate will go.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Sometimes the truth may not. I mean, I got my human design done, and even on that, it came up as a manifesting generator. And one of the the positives was that she spoke to me about this. I had a session done, and she said to me,
Hmm.
you're always speaking your truth, and it's actually a positive. I said, but I get in trouble sometimes because I'm just saying things how they are, and not everybody likes to hear the truth. And she says, but you don't realize it. They might feel bad for a little while, but then they go back and they reflect, and then that's where the changes happen. So she says, don't
Yeah.
ever stop that.
That's a good. I think that's a good um, description, and also, and again, maybe this is where the code is to see mm, the sacred and pure and original pattern, even in this heavy density. So, like if you look at what she said, um, that's what we do, right? Like if you look at Sology, Sology all those years. Well, Sology just wasn't this place that people went and they went, oh my God, I saw light language, and oh my God, I got activated, and oh my God. And it's just an example. It could be a person, it could be whatever.
Mm,
It also triggered people,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Which is the same thing ultimately once you get to the other side. Um, and maybe that's part of what we're moving into. And as we see it with more and more frequency, it will become more familiar, and we'll be able to navigate what used to be very um, challenging and traumatic, potentially, like family and friends and relationships, and you know what I mean, and be able to go through those things with a really, that you can't fake, a greater sense of what love is, I guess you could say it that way, divine love, and not getting caught up in the old rhythms and patterns and stuff like that, to include, um, you know, a parent passing or something that used to really, I guess you would say, like devastate us or take our focus and our energy for a long, long time. Uh, this is really, um, I would say, like I said the other day on the show, on one of the shows, virgin territory.
yeah.
You know,
I don't
We-
recognize myself. Like I don't even know how I'm here doing this. I have definitely changed as a person. Like
Yeah.
all of this has changed me. Like I used to have a very bad temper, um, but I calmed down a lot, a lot.
You know, that's a really good example. I think each and every one of us
Mm,
can identify with having a bad temper. Now, some of us on one end might be the type of person who was very, very quiet, never said much, but when the temper came out, right? And then the other might be someone who's just never got a hug when they were a kid and pissed off all the time on the other end of the spectrum.
mm,
But the fact is, it's still the same code. It's still the same deception or part of us that's not even real or unnecessary or whatever. But it's the same decision, and this and I think the first part of that decision, as my wife says, the first step to transformation is awareness,
yeah.
right? And then I think the second step, I've never asked her or whatever, but I think the second step is admitting it,
Yes,
because
it is.
whatever's happening to us and what you are exemplifying, like with what's happened over the last couple of months, it's happening within you. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks. It's between you and the universe, Mother Goddess, Father God, however you see it.
Yes.
But nobody knows. You can't convince anybody. You don't need to tell anybody. And it's crazy because it sounds like and feels like to me that this is the root of our potential, our dreams, our passions, our love. And it just doesn't make sense
Yeah.
for it to be put upon me or you or my partner or your partner or our friends, that really I can control all of this.
Yeah. We're discovering more about ourselves and that know thyself.
Yeah, and it's not bullshit.
No.
And even what was put out there all these years wasn't bullshit, but it was
No.
different. It was different then. There's a different audience. There's a difference. There's a different expanse of the beehive intelligence. Like, we're not just embodying our souls into our body. We're in the Mother Earth. We are Mother Earth is embodying the multidimensional, the multigalactical, et cetera, into the Earth.
Mm.
And
There's a change in animals as well. Like
yeah,
I've seen a lot of change. I have two cats,
yeah.
and there's changes in their behaviors. You can see. I even
Like,
when my dad passed, you know how they say cats can see, and
cats
sometimes
are cats are ETs. Let's just be clear about that.
yeah,
No, but you said
the Lyran.
you noticed a change in your cats, and people have talked about animals. What did you notice?
Um, it's very loving since my and she can tell energy. Like when I was really down, like
Hmm.
the first few days when dad passed, she's more next to my mom, but she knew that I needed that, and so she
Hmm.
slept next to me,
Hmm.
um, comforting me and all of that. So they know.
Right.
And she keeps staring. She would keep staring like above my head, and I'm like, can you see my dad? What are you looking at? So
Him.
I have two. One's a he and one's a she. So
So, one of the things that came up in the conversations the last couple of shows was, as we talked about everything that's happened and what do you make of it, like we're doing,
yeah.
and I posed the questions. So, is it like this beautiful, infinite simplicity at the end of the day in our human that things as simple as, how do I feel about my mother? How do I feel about my father? How much do I love myself on a scale of 1 to 10? Like, has it come to this? Like, has it come to like, you might say it like this: I can only love the universe as much as I love myself.
100%.
You know what I
I
mean? Like,
totally agree
is
with
it
that.
like the humans on point? The humans on point.
Yeah.
It feels like.
Yeah. It's all going back to yourself.
Hmm.
Everything is within us, right?
Did you have your when your dad transitioned, and we
Mm-hmm.
know what that means?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, did you have at the human aspect? Did you have like breakdowns? Did you, you know, just lose it and
So yeah,
cry and
oh yeah, 100%. I did.
mm,
But and being on our path, like there was no suppressing it inside because I didn't want to sit there and clear this after another 5, 6 years. I knew that I needed to feel everything that I felt and acknowledge that. And I learned some breath work. So when I do this breath work, I had a massive release where I
mm,
let go, and I still feel that there. I mean, I'm a lot better now, but sometimes it would be things like his favorite foods, because I always lived with him.
right?
I've, and so when I'm seeing his cupboard and his clothes and all of that,
Mm.
there'll be moments still
Did
early
you
days.
as a result of what happened? And again, it's not so much the human story, although that's really where the key is. But what's it saying? What did it mean? Did you like as it happened and he transitioned? Did you have like things come up
Yes.
about where he was the symbol, you might say? Not that it was a personal thing, but like, oh my God, did I say what I needed to say, or did he know this, or did I
Oh
know
yeah.
that? Yeah.
Oh yeah. It always comes up, even though I feel. Oh, I mean, I couldn't have done any more. Like
Mm,
it was, but it felt like a big relief that now I could get on my path and do what I'm here to do and be on my soul mission, and I feel like I'm here to help others for sure. It
so
wouldn't have happened if he hadn't transitioned out, and it was all
I
in
got you.
perfect timing that he had to do it. He had to go during that time so that I can now,
I got you.
without feeling worried about him.
So what you're saying is, from the human and the soul perspective,
Hmm.
you can see the continuity and the correlation and the collaboration between you and your father, and that since he in the physical plane has transitioned, you can feel what's opened up in you as a
Yeah, and
result.
I feel he's supporting me. Like
Yeah.
after he passed, 4 weeks later, my sister and me hadn't spoken for like 9 years, I think, about
Mm,
9 years. Because as kids, we're all gonna have trauma in our own ways. We all dealt with it different. And so there
right.
was lack of understanding with each other. Everyone's angry with each other. And so I'd done the inner work, whereas she hadn't done much of the inner work. However, she was quite still open to energies and stuff like that.
Mm, mm.
So she reached out a month before Dad passed, and we cleared our differences and we spoke about our experiences and all of that. And so I'm a bit lost. What did you just ask me? Because I'm going into this sidetrack. I do this. I like to go into too much detail, and then what did
Hey, this is part of our new active consciousness. No, no, I think you
Oh, you
spoke.
you told me about whether I feel, yeah. So basically, what she then said was that she wanted to do the clearing. So I said, yeah, it's important because I've done the clearing. She could see it changing me. So I said, all right, I'll teach you everything that I've learned. So the inner
Okay.
child healing and the breath work and the soul, all of it, ancestral healing, all of that. So what I did was at my house, I invited about 3 or 4 people, actually 6 people, and we all did inner child healing and all of
Yeah.
that, and the breath work and all of that. And everyone was very happy because some of these people have never done anything like it ever in their lives. But I feel my dad was the one that was giving me these thoughts. He was
Mm,
very happy that I had got on my spiritual path because
mm,
I know he was crying for help. He was
yeah.
crying for help all the way through his journey. He didn't want to be an alcoholic. He didn't choose to have these addictions. He didn't choose any of that. It was all because of his childhood, and it was all perfect because we chose these soul contracts. He decided
Exactly.
to come into my life to be very
Yeah.
hard so that I could then learn all of this. So when you know it all like that, there's no, it's forgiven. It's forgiveness
Yeah.
happened a very
So
long
it's
time
like
ago.
it's like yeah. It's so like what you said earlier. Through it all, you showed him unconditional love, and
Yeah,
so this is what we do, right? You talked about it. Like we plan this. We come down here. It's not set in stone. We have like synchronicities set up, to give us guidance or whatever. But he gave you what he gave you, and you gave him what you gave him. And really, that seems to be what's materializing to me as it doesn't make sense, but how we live. It's not about surviving. It's not about do I have money in the bank. It's not about this. Not. It's just about are we having an experience in equilibrium? Am I open and not infringing upon you, and vice versa? Are we just saying, "Hey, how are you?" Blah blah blah. And like you said earlier too, um, part of this, which I think has been judged by me and probably many others, is when there's an energy that we don't align with, it doesn't mean that it's bad. It's just not our neighborhood. We have a certain soul monad, a region, a community, or whatever, a family, whatever, and maybe that's where, or maybe that's what's happening. Is we're all moving to our natural state in the collective body, so to speak,
that's right.
through these
But you
very
see, because
human through these very human things.
that's right. But you see, because my father was, and because I understood this, this is why I couldn't just abandon him and leave, because I knew that he didn't do any of this on purpose.
Mm.
If I didn't have if I wasn't on my path and I didn't know about all this, then yeah, I'd be sitting there making judgments on him and saying, "What kind of human being are you?"
Were you able to talk to him about light worker and
Yeah,
star seed and
I was.
esoteric things?
Yeah,
Really? Yeah.
and my mom.
Wow.
I'm trying to wake
Wow.
my mom up. um, but I've got to remember, we've got to remember that no, if a soul is not ready to wake up, they're not gonna wake up. Uh,
Yeah, I think that's part. Yeah, I think that's part of what I was talking about earlier. Whether we like it or not, okay. Um, it seems like we're not supposed to
no,
interfere.
yeah, and that is
That
my
that
message. Yeah,
that re, right, regardless, right? Like we're not supposed to. Well, and it's not like we did anything wrong. I mean, like we want to help people.
yeah,
We are heart-based entities, right? But it's almost like you get to the point where, like, you know what? You just need to worry about
mm,
yourself first and foremost, and then from there work on whatever comes or whatever presents
yeah. So
itself. And it's kind of strange.
that's like
Yeah.
my friends. So they'll always say there's a big change in you because they can see a change in me. My customers could see a change in me. So
Mm.
you'll have these conversations and you can guide them to the path and say, look, this is what I did and it works. But then it's up to that person to make that effort and make the time and make a change. You can't make them do anything,
Whether they do or
whether
they
they do
don't.
or don't. But then I've always
Which has nothing to do with
no.
me,
And so for me,
right?
I've
You know
always
what I mean?
been like, for me, I would do it from 11 to 12, even though I was knackered after a 9 to 5 job, then being home, having a
Right.
disabled father. Before sleep, I would do my clearing, like, and so that wasn't easy, but I was determined to make a change. So if you want to make a change, you've got to put in the effort, right?
So you were doing this at 11 and 12?
So before bed,
Is that what you
even though
said?
I'm tired, I do my meditations to do my
At
clearing.
11 at 11 and 12. So I didn't realize too also that you mentioned your father was disabled.
Yeah, he had a
Uh
because he had an arm amputated and it turned into Parkinson's,
okay.
dementia, brain injuries.
Okay, I got you. I got you. I got you. But from a very young age, you were a caretaker and but also had the awareness or the guidance or whatever to understand you needed to clear every night. That's very cool. Yeah.
But even like, like the ancestral healing and all is quite overwhelming when you're new. Because, you
Hmm.
go into Facebook and your teachers are saying, okay, you need to clear this, you need to do that, you need to do your masculine and feminine, and and it's like overwhelming. And that's how I'm talking to my sister. I'm saying one thing at a time. It's just too much.
Hmm.
And so I would do it before sleeping, like just an hour. That's all I had. And I'm glad that I did that because it's very easy to say I'm tired. I'll do it tomorrow and I'll do it
Right.
the day after, and
Right.
it never happens. So there's no excuse.
Right.
If you want to make a change, you can make a change.
Yeah. You take that moment for yourself or with your partner, or you know what I mean. Like it can be 15 minutes. It can be
That's
an
it.
hour. It can be 2 hours. Yeah, but it's
It's
important.
important.
It's really probably more important now than ever,
Yeah.
because we are being forced to be present with ourselves. No matter how much we think we are present with ourselves and other people, there's more work to do. Um, there's a deeper space that we can find, and we have found that over the years through meditation, dimensional experiences, synchronicities, etc.
But I do feel the
Um,
energies recently, like in the last few weeks, have been quite intense. Like I've been feeling them. Normally, I don't feel
no kidding. No
them
kidding.
as strong, but I do feel them being very strong.
Yeah, no kidding. Let me ask you this. I mean, we don't have to go into this deeply, but I'm just curious because I think it's part of what we're both unraveling and integrating, and that is the masculine and the feminine. Now, you mentioned your relationship, and of course, your dynamics with your father, your mother, siblings, etc., and just the world as a whole. Um, where do you see within yourself and or
Hmm.
collectively what's occurring? What have you found out? What have you learned? What are you applying with in regard to the masculine
Okay.
and the feminine, both your masculine and feminine, and what you're
So for
seeing?
me, I'm going to talk about me first. So for me, I was in my
Yes.
masculine from a very young age. I had to be, from given the
Mm.
circumstances that I was in. I had to be like the man of the house and take care of everyone, and my mom to a certain extent as well because of my father being the way he was.
Mm.
So whenever I got into a relationship, because I'm like the warrior type, the very I know what I want. I know I I'm so independent at this age. I'm completely independent. I'm not reliant on anybody, and because I didn't have all of that support as a child, I've had to do it all by
Right.
myself. So I do feel I'm more towards my masculine than my feminine. For me to go fully in my, I mean, outlook complete feminine, but inwards still, I still have a little bit of imbalance. I'm getting better at it, but I think for a woman to completely be in her feminine, it's if there was enough men that were in their masculine energies, then it's safe for a woman to be in her feminine energy.
Oh, okay, this is where I want to go. If you want to go with me,
Nice.
if not, I'll speak to it because I don't know because it's just coming up now. Where does that really take place? As with everything, we know this, we've heard it through the years, and we're experiencing it and embodying it now, whether we like it or not, which is inside of us. So, like in what you were talking about, because that we hear that in these communities over the years, like where's the masculine, or he's seen a certain way, or that part of us is seen a certain way. Um, Within yourself, you talked about being overly
Mm-hmm.
masculine. You're obviously tapped into your feminine, and graciously you admit, and I admit myself with you, and I think everybody can. We're not there. Well, you know what I mean. That's the birthing process. I mean, that's
I
what
think
we're creating.
that's gonna take
How?
time.
Yes. So how does your
Mm-hmm.
feminine feel about your masculine? How how safe does your feminine feel or unsafe? And how does your masculine feel within you?
Well, for that to change, there has to be a change as a collective. Um, However, I am changing things, as in like creativity, for example, is something that I need to do. I need to do it now. In that
Mm,
bank job that I was
mm,
in, I haven't even passed my maths. I don't know what I was doing in that bank. Clearly, it was supposed to be there. However, I'm very creative. And so I want to do something that I enjoy, and that might help me balance my feminine a bit more. In terms of my masculine, now my dad has passed, I feel things are going to change where I'll be able to balance it a lot better. In terms of
mm.
relationships, I will not date somebody until I feel that they've done their inner work and they're meeting me on the same frequency. Until now, I've always attracted men that are broken, wounded, and in their feminine totally. It's all because I wasn't there. I was attracting where I am. It's a mirror, right? We're attracting where
Wow.
we are always going to attract
So,
where we're vibrating.
would another way to say that be because we are apparently in a quantum thought reality? So, whatever I think of you, you are.
Mm,
Now, it may not be that way coming from
mhm.
you, but it's my world. So, would another way to say that be that you were, and we can all relate to this, you were attracting the type of, let's just say, partner or connection or relationship based on how you viewed
Oh, totally. It's all energy.
the the
Yeah.
masculine.
There's a guy that I followed, Danny Morel, and I went to Wembley Stadium last year, and he really talks about
Mm,
it really properly, like really well, the masculine and feminine. And we learn all these things through our childhood, and where we're vibrating is what we will attract. And the
right,
same thing with
right,
my boss. I attracted that. To have that kind of boss, it's all to do with
right.
energies. And even when after I had that breakup, which is where my whole awakening happened, I then dated um, a shadow work teacher on Facebook. He had, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm not going to give names, but he was doing shadow work. And you would obviously think that being a teacher teaching shadow work, he's done the shadow work himself. And so I was new and naive. It was early stages of my journey. We went on a retreat, and he started telling me that he's channeling Divine Mother, Divine Father, we're supposed to be together, and all this. And I kind of fell for that. Like, I'm not easy to fall for these things, but I really did, because I thought that everybody on a spiritual path is on a spiritual path, has done the inner work. It only lasted 3 months. But as I got to know him, I realized that he hadn't done any of the inner work, and I was kind of
Right.
fooled a bit. But it's okay, because that then taught me my
Well,
power, and it taught me how things could have got
yeah,
very ugly, but it didn't. And in 3 months, I
yeah,
realized, and so I moved away. But that taught me discernment. It taught me to
yeah.
go within and not need to go outside of myself to seek this kind of help. But it's okay. It all happened exactly how it was supposed to happen. But again, I had attracted the same pattern as the first one. They were exactly the same.
Right.
Then that was about 3 years
So,
ago, 4 years ago. So,
right. So essentially, and I think this is good for all of us to consider as well, is when or as and when we can look back, whether it be a day ago, a week ago, a month ago, 2 to 3 years ago, we can look back and see the value of it all. And we don't have a charge. We don't have a, well, we may because we're still becoming perfect, but we don't have, we're not blaming,
no,
we're not externalizing, we're not casting a shadow on a mirror of us that we think we are not connected to. We're connected to it because we
yeah,
created
we
it
did. And maybe we had
for a
a soul
reason and
contract
with
too. We
purpose.
maybe
Yeah,
had a soul contract with them.
of
So
course
we
we
know
did.
all of that, and it's all a
Yeah,
blessing. But The point being is that
Yeah.
after that, I said no more. I need to do the clearing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I now feel I've done enough. It's never going to be enough. There's not going to be an end to it. However, enough to say that enough has been done where I feel like if I now was to find somebody, it wouldn't be that kind of energy for sure.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned something in the first 10 minutes, which was about feeling.
Mhm.
You said something about it didn't feel
Yeah,
right.
and I
Like I
ignored
just
it.
knew because of the way I felt.
I ignored it.
But you know what? But really, when you get down to it, past all the explanations that we, honestly and with great intentions put out, all of us, me, you, everybody, it is how you feel.
Yeah,
And the crazy thing is there's feelings like how do you feel? Angry, da da da, sad, happy, excited, all those different things. But it's a different kind of feeling. It's a feeling of just feeling, like intuition, telepathy, blah 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 blah. You know what I mean? Yet there's this friction that's occurring between what I know, like what we're talking about, like that feeling, and how it affects our feelings, like our human,
yeah,
like our ego, and that's another
yeah.
thing that's I don't feel like people are talking about, not because we're stupid or with no judgment, but just it's so new and it's so human. You want to go, oh my God, no, I'm attached to the Arcturians and I was this and no, this is where we're supposed to
That's right.
look.
We're
Like,
here to be
why are
human.
you? Why am I angry? Why? Yeah, like why am I angry? Why am I sad? Why do I feel guilty about doing what feels right? That you know what I mean? And uh,
Going
and
within.
I feel like that a lot. Yeah, of course, and a lot of that is falling away. Because how many times do we not do something? And I'm guilty because of what others might think or feel. What's the difference between how they'll feel versus how they think? I mean, what's the difference? The whole point is we're giving up our um, self, our essence, our being who we
Yeah,
are as a in other words, uh, in regard for what somebody might feel if we do something, or how they might think if we do
yeah.
something. I mean, to me, this is the kind of dialogue that I'm having inside myself. My partner and I, we talk. I mean, what I feel, it's no more about the things that we discussed over the previous 12 years. It's about what's really going on with you. What's really
All the
happening with
deep
us.
stuff.
Yeah. And your story, synchronicities, physical synchronicities seem to be a big part of this more and more every
Yeah,
day.
even numbers,
Your story, yeah,
numbers.
your story and your yeah. Well, you're knowing that you were going to go on, right? Like there's 100 people plus sending messages, and you put it in like I know I'm going on, right? And you're not the only one. Like 4 or 5 of the other ones, same way.
Yeah.
So there's something to that.
See, it's
There's something
like
to
it's
that.
like if you look at my year 2025, so many major changes happened to me. I lost my job, even though I manifested it. It was still a big thing. Lost my job, lost my dad. I think it's all about the old needed to go so
Yeah,
that the new could start.
yeah,
Major changes.
yeah. And they make no sense. Like even I didn't realize that until you just said this right now. So you from the human, you know, you lost your father, you lost your job. That means you lost money
That's right.
coming in. Now I can relate to
All of
this.
it.
I can relate to this stuff.
All.
Both my parents are still alive, but certain things coming in, having to let go at a real human level, and I would say like the energy of abundance is sitting there. And I don't just mean money, I mean all of it. And it's sitting there saying, just let go. just let go. But you're like going, oh my God, how am I going to pay for
Right.
this? How am I going to pay for that? Oh my God, everything's going away. But it's right there as we do that. And I'm not saying that's easy because I'm not saying I'm doing it perfectly, but I believe that's um, what we are being offered. It's a whole different world.
That's right. And that's like me. Like if this was the old me, I would be worrying right now. I don't have a job. What am I gonna do? Oh, but I feel like I'm able to surrender a lot more. It's like, okay, it's fine. I'm just gonna trust source and something will come up. That's all we
Yeah.
can do.
Yes. I mean, all we can. Well, okay.
I'm doing a
Yes.
course, so
Like,
I'll be do. I already started a course, which I was already doing. I have just a few more months till I finished. But I don't know what I want to do next yet. And now it's where I'll go really quiet. I have the time to go really
yeah.
quiet, go within, and see what comes up next.
Somebody said, a sister said, like 3 or 4 shows ago, oh my God, time is moving so
Yes,
fast.
I feel that.
And I think we can all
Going
agree to
so
that.
quick.
But she said at the same time, yeah, but she said at the same time, it's like there's a slow little bubble in the middle of it
Yeah.
where we can actually look at things, consider things, sit with
Hmm.
things, and there's no
No.
rush. Like you're talking about, I'm going to finish this. I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's like so there, and that's even like in terms of things that are presented to us very quickly and out of nowhere when the energies, are like they are today, which I think I saw 2 or 3 M flares,
Mm.
and
That
um,
used to be like
but
every other day now.
yeah, but it's almost like I don't know. I, I don't have the answer for myself. I certainly don't have it for anyone else. But for me, what it really feels like is everything I've ever believed, everything, no matter what, ascension, God, everything, everything is to be, or can I be open to and have the faith of releasing it, letting go of it all?
Yes.
And something like you talked about, there's something that's still there right now. I remember you said that earlier, that tells me, because we've experienced it, it's innate within us, we understand it, it's familiar, that as we do that, whatever we had was the hardest to let go of comes back like a million times and everything else with it. And it sounds like hokey pokey, new ageisms and light workers stuff. But no, this is science. It's spirit science, and it's weird
Yeah.
because how can I? How can I? What's that old saying? It was like a meme, and the guy's hands were in the air, and he said, "Who am I that God would know my
Yeah.
name?"
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like something like what I mean, like within,
Mm.
without,
Oh yeah.
above,
Yeah.
below.
Yeah.
Well, it's a math I don't understand. I don't understand
Mm.
it. It's nice to have conversations, and we're not talking about the demonstrations and the government and this and that. Not to take anything away from that, because it was all part of the awakening process. But the more that I'm stepping into the space with people like you and those that have been on, and um, it's
Yeah.
scary. It makes me nervous.
Yeah.
It's vulnerable. It feels like you get put on the spot to be transparent, but it feels right. And at the core of it is, um, like I would just say, like, I is you, and we, but like I am soul, I am sacred union, I am Trinity, and
The more that
um,
we are transparent, the more people will understand, and maybe
uh,
the more that will awaken. And the quicker the people awaken, the quicker we can have a better life.
Yeah. If we want that, unless we want to have a little more pain so
No.
we can develop more code. No, I think
I'm
everybody's kind of
allergic to
tired right now.
that.
Well, I think we're a little tired, and
Yeah,
we,
we are.
energetically from the soul. Yeah, it's been a long,
I
long
know.
haul,
And we're tired in this
and
life. How many lifetimes is it like this? Enough.
I really feel like it's come to a point where it's something special's
Oh, I
going on.
feel that. I
Really,
totally feel that.
yeah, I
It
really
feels
do.
like it's
I
very
really do.
close. We don't know what,
Yeah.
but it feels good.
But let go of when it's coming. Let go of everything. Surrender to everything. I don't know anything, and uh, it's like being stripped of everything and going, my God, what is it?
I think
Like,
I
what
think
are we
the
doing
people
here?
that awakened a lot earlier, is it 2012? A lot of people, for me it was 2020. But I couldn't imagine
Yeah,
having to wait all those years. And it just like, everyone talks about the solar flash and it's like, oh, it's coming. I've been hearing that for 5 years and it's like, oh my God, can you imagine the people talking about it for, I'm very impatient. For me, it's like, let's just get it done. If I could just be in bed for a month and get all of my trauma completely come out and be bedbound for a month, I don't care. I'd rather get it over with than it being
I think
slow.
that's yeah. I think that's what another way to look at it is what it's come down to, and this means the way I feel anyway. The way it's coming to me is it means to everyone on an individual basis. So it's got nothing to do with anyone else. It's just
Yeah.
me and the universe. And what that is what you talked about, which is any and all things that we created um, as a result of these incarnations that have climaxed in this particular one,
Mhm.
right? Um, the deepest, from the human perspective, the darkest, and all that. It's those things, and I know it sounds cliche, but really to actually admit these things to ourselves,
Yeah.
to take the responsibility off the external, whether it be for love or hate or blame or shame or anything, victimization, anything, but to take those things within ourselves and take a look at them. And instead of trying to send them away,
Put them under the carpet and then they'll come and bite you later.
we transform them. That's what we've been doing.
I know,
That's what we've been
I
doing.
know, but people are
You know.
forced to look in and deal with it right now.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we're being given
There's
a
no choice,
choice. I really feel like that. Whether you're Donald Trump or
no
the
matter who
Pope
you
or
are.
the who, that's right. Whether you're the plants, because it's all
Yeah,
part of it, right? Mother Earth, the elementals, the galactics, all of it. This is uh, this is happening, and like the old Zen proverb, that I like to quote, "Let go or be dragged." It's kind of a harsh way to say it, but I don't think it has to be that harsh now.
no.
I really don't.
Mm. But you see, like when I was new on my path, and I would see so many teachers out there, but like I said, their gifts are there, but they haven't done the inner work.
Yeah.
And so now they're going back to it, right? So for me, it was the other way around. I've started doing the inner work, and now I'm ready to get my gifts. Get
Well,
my gifts,
yeah,
but
that's a good
remember
point.
what we were already doing, because we all.
Uh, you know, really, if we just to give us some context, we just say 2012 to
Mhm.
2024. I'm not a practitioner, but I've obviously interacted with a lot of them, and we've all
Yeah.
seen them. But seriously, the whole consciousness, the whole potential was what you described. We all did it in our own
Yes.
way, and that was to try to let's just say put our efforts into
Yeah.
healing people and gaining our identity by how much effort we put out and how much success we had. Uh, Basically, a wounded healer.
Yeah.
And now I think what you're talking about, because I've heard a couple of other people kind of say this in the previous few
Mhm.
shows, um, we can see it now. It's not a
No.
judgment. it's like, wait a minute. I've got something in me that can see that you haven't done what you just said. Thank you for the gift because now I can go think about it and do it myself, or something
That's
like
right.
that. Going back to what you said earlier about the choosing yourself, like with the example of your friend who's very dear and said, "Here, this is the information I'm going to give you." And you're like, "Okay, thank you, but I'm going to go with 80% of this and what I'm getting here." Right? It's actually occurring.
Yeah, because we have it, and we are who we've been looking for. We're all. I've so even for me,
Mm,
like until I always look for the next shiny coin. Oh, maybe I can get an initiation from someone. Maybe I could go to say Egypt and get an activation there, or something. And it's like seeking this and seeking that, but then you
mm.
get to a point where it's like go within. Everything's inside of you.
Yeah, it's like getting diplomas or certificates, or passports or licenses or anything else. This is who I am.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting year, I believe. I think it'll be a very interesting year.
yeah.
But all we can do is take it one day, 1 week, and 1 month at a time. Thank you so much for coming
No
in,
problem. Thank you for having me.
and thank you for being so open in regard to your personal experience. It was full of code, and thank you for entering the space with me where we don't know what we're going to do. Uh, Blessings of grace to you and yours, and everything that you're uh, you know attempting to do and going to do and aligned to do. I wish you the very, very best.
Thank you so much. All right.
Hmm. Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.